Welcome, everyone, to another edition of SCRC's Let's Talk Caregiving. I'm your host, Roberto Velasquez, President and CEO of Southern Caregiver Resource Center. And I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Martha Rañón, our Executive Vice President. How are you doing today, Martha?
I'm doing great, Roberto. Nice to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Jennie McGoy. Jennie teaches gentle and chair yoga of movement to seniors in retirement communities, nursing homes, memory care communities, as well as more active yoga at various Carlsbad parks. She also works one-on-one with individuals and travels around North County teaching caregivers ways to engage with their loved ones or clients through yoga, movement, breathing techniques, and even short guided meditations. This is fantastic. Thank you and welcome, Jennie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jennie, thank you so much for being here. I know that you are a very busy person, obviously traveling all over San Diego County. And so we really appreciate you taking the time because I know that as a caregiver, as people who are listening to us who are caregivers, you know, self-care is not at the forefront of their minds. And I think much less yoga, which seems to be to them, a little bit more intimidating. You have to be a yoga guru. You have to be very knowledgeable. You have to have a mat. So I want to hear from you. How can caregivers incorporate this into their busy lives?
So many ways, both for themselves and for the loved one. And you can do it both at the same time. I'm a multitasker by nature. So, if many things that I can do at once, I try to do. And that's kind of the beauty of what we'll go through is that the things that I will show the caregiver, they will be doing along with their loved one so that both of them can benefit at the same time. And yes, it's yoga, but yoga is such a broad term. And I am on a mission to try to demystify it a bit. I'm 53. I discovered yoga about 10 years ago,
Okay.
and I am not bendy, and I'm certainly not young. So, all that to say that yoga, and I put that in quotes, we call it that, but it's basically moving your body however it's able to move. It's paying attention to your breathing and and then inviting ways to calm the nervous system. So I put it under that umbrella called yoga. But it's all of that. No one should be intimidated or think they can't do it.
Yeah, it's funny how you describe yoga because I've done yoga. I did it for a little while and I didn't keep it up. But what I found very interesting for me is when I was doing some of the yoga, I was actually exhausted when I was done. I mean, I was working up a sweat. It was like as if I was doing cardio, but it's very slow, deliberate movements, which was really good for your joints and your knees and you're not really stressing too much. And then there's even ways to do it that are a lot more gentle. Like I mentioned in your introduction, chair yoga. Love chair yoga. Sit there, you stretch your legs, your knees. It's great fun, and you're getting a bigger workout than you really think you are.
That is so very true. And I do think some people will say, their doctor might even say, you should try yoga. It would be good for your body or for your mind. But they
Mhm.
go to a yoga studio, and
Mhm.
those yoga studios are wonderful for certain populations. But they're not for everybody, even though some of them will say, oh, all are welcome. Well, if you've had a hip replacement, or if you have
Mhm.
osteoporosis, or you use a wheelchair exclusively, that's not the place that you want to be. And that's where I come in. I have an anatomy background as it relates to these movements. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor, but I'm very familiar with working with populations that maybe only get up and out of their wheelchair, once a day, or do have osteoporosis, those kinds of things. So you do, those are my people, the people that you wouldn't typically see in a yoga studio.
I love that you're saying that, and I think it makes it more realistic for caregivers who are caring for individuals, like you said, maybe they're in a wheelchair, maybe they do have dementia, for example, and going to a studio is just not going to be appropriate, environment for anyone. But to be able to incorporate some gentle movements, even if it's just mentally saying, I'm going to do some breathing, I'm going to do some stretching. It's your time that you can take for yourself in this busy, just lives that we're all living. And to be able to incorporate that with the person that you're caring for, I think is what is the problem, right? That many of us face as caregivers. How am I going to do this? I'm caring for this individual. Forget it. I'm just not even going to do it. But now that you can both sit there together and do it at the same time, and it also builds that sense of belonging, that sense of maybe creating some new memories, that sense of we're spending time together. I think those are all value added benefits of doing these type of exercises.
Thank you for saying that, Martha. I think the benefits to this type of exercise, yoga, or other types of breathing movement techniques, short guided meditations, you know, it's not just a benefit because you're stretching and you're becoming more limber and your joints are going to feel better after a while and you're going to have more mobility after you do this. But we know from research that it's a huge benefit to help reducing stress. And people actually, their health improves when they do, maybe take 30 minutes or an hour of their day to do these types of activities. And it's in all the evidence-based programs for caregiving, breathing techniques, yoga, guided meditation, all of these types of activities are known to reduce stress among caregivers.
Roberto, I'm glad you said about it being, evidence-based or research-based, because I'm a big fan of that fact that it's rooted in science. That's where I come from. Is I want the proof. Where did that come from? It's not just somebody on some sort of social media channel. I wanted to mention two things in terms of making this, realistic for caregivers. What I often hear are two main themes. One from caregivers is, I don't know what to do. I know I want to do something with my loved one, my client, what have you, but I don't know what to do. Or I know they should get moving, but they don't want to. They just want to sit there and watch TV for example. The second thing I hear a lot is, what do I do to help de-escalate behaviors? And that kind of, I thought of that when Roberto was saying, stress reduction. So this is where it gets very practical, very hands-on, easy. You don't have to have a degree in whatever. Getting the person to move their spine is usually what I try to do. So folding forward, as long as they don't have, say, osteoporosis in their spine, twisting, side bending, and back bending, and you can get that to be really fun. When I am with my dad's 89, and he and my mom live in New Jersey, far away, but we'll do a little yoga class, which he's like, I don't like yoga. I'll say, well, we're not going to call it yoga. We're going to call it strength and balance. And so I'll say, Dad, can you turn and look out the window? There, he's turned, he's getting some spinal movement. And then I'll say, what do you see? And he has some mild cognitive impairment. So here I'm getting him a little bit of mental stimulation. And then I don't run into this very often, but as far as those behaviors, say the loved one is really nervous about an upcoming doctor's appointment, whatever it might be, redirect. And because you're not going to talk them out of it. And so, but you can redirect by saying, Can you put one hand on your chest, one hand on your abdomen, and let's take 5 breaths? Something simple like that is an example. That could be a breathing thing. A guided meditation is an example. You don't have to be a meditation expert. You can say to that person, where's your favorite place to go on vacation? Tell me about that. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you smell? Again, not, rocket science, but just some real concrete, easy ways that caregivers can get their loved one to move, to breathe, to de-stress.
Jenny, thank you for sharing all that, because that's really important. And actually, this is one of the exciting things for me today in this podcast is not only are you an expert, but I know Martha's an expert in this. And Martha has created, I shouldn't say we, Martha has created, based on evidence-based programs, quick 20-minute videos in both English and Spanish on meditation, the power of music, stretching, little exercises like
Breathing.
that, breathing, exactly. And it's really neat to have both of you here today, actually, because you both have approached it in different ways, but it's really important. It's so important that we're not only doing a podcast, but we actually offer it through some of our programs as well as through our iCare portal at Southern Caregiver Resource Center.
And Jenny, I appreciate Roberto you saying that, because in my own life, I was a caregiver, and I also am a caregiver to children. They're my children. But I found that when I was most stressed, periods of in your life when just things happen and you are very stressed, that there has to be a way to be able to manage that stress. And I turn to these type of breathing exercise, mindfulness, yoga. And again, at first I thought, this is so, not part of my purview. This is really not what I am used to, right? I'm glad that you're talking about demystifying it. But it was also something that once I got started, it was so easy to incorporate, right? I did it with my children. I did it with my aunt who I used to care for, and she had dementia. And I look back now, in those moments really where the stress was lessened, because we were redirecting. We were doing some breathing exercises, we were doing some gentle stretching. And yes, maybe it is the perception of calling it something else, not yoga, but it was still, the motivation behind it is for us to do some exercise, to do something together, and not just be sitting in front of the television, but also the breathing, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which really calms us down, is what we need in those moments of stress. So I just want to make sure that all of our caregivers out there, give it a chance. Don't be turned off by that term, yoga, and I have to be a yogi. But really, it's about, hey, maybe I can just stretch a little so that next time as I'm walking, I won't have these joints so stiff, or they won't hurt as I get up. I don't know what you think, Jenny.
I love that you have videos and tools, because it's great to talk about, but to remember it is hard without dementia. So the fact that you have recordings is just wonderful. I also like to tell people, do maybe little yoga bites or little yoga snacks. If someone literally can just take off their shoes and wiggle their toes in the carpet for a moment or two, or practicing, if they're more mobile, practice sitting and standing a few times. Maybe that's it. And then you go on for a few hours, and then you come back at the end of the day, and maybe you're doing a little side bending. So while, it would be fabulous if we could all dedicate 30 minutes, 60 minutes a day to this. Realistically, can you just twist a little bit? Put on, twist and shout. Put on a fun song that encourages twisting. Do the YMCA, anything like that, and then move on. It doesn't have to be large chunks of time. Just little bitty bites can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we tell caregivers all the time, right? It's just little tiny moments. Maybe do them throughout the day. Maybe whenever you're sitting down in front of the television, that's when you incorporate them. And then it's kind of like a dual purpose, right? You are more relaxed, but you're also doing some exercise instead of just sitting there watching TV and kind of just vegging out, but also doing some exercise and oxygenating that brain and that body and that, get your circulation moving.
Things like if you can get moving in the morning somewhat as best you can, that can help your loved one who you're caregiving or caring for eat a better lunch, uh, which is often a struggle trying to get them to eat well. But if you get moving, chances are you're going to work up maybe a little bit more of an appetite. You also might take a better nap early in the afternoon so that it doesn't impact your sleep at night. So those are some of the things that as motivates me, or what are some of my goals. Let's get them moving somewhat so that they eat better, sleep better. Two of the most basic needs that you can help anybody to have a better quality of life.
You're absolutely right. And I know that for many family caregivers, when their loved one maybe has Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or difficulty with movements or memory behaviors, many times they exhibit more severe symptoms when they're just sitting there all day, when they don't have an activity, when they're put in front of a television, or they're just giving activities that are not very meaningful to them. And as Martha was saying earlier, this not only creates memories of fun things or activities that you did with your loved one, but it also helps keep them active and helps with some of the behaviors that might be coming up maybe even later on in the day, like when the sun is going down and they start going through sundowning, which is very common symptom of Alzheimer's disease and becomes a very difficult behavior.
Socialization is probably maybe the biggest pillar for good health when it comes to older adults. So, if you can get in a group, fabulous. Not everybody benefits from group socialization, but just that one-on-one caregiver and loved one, maybe all the socialization someone needs to feel a little bit better, have a little bit better day. It's certainly much better than that two-dimensional figure on a screen. I have one parting thought in case we run out of time, and that is for those caregivers who struggle with trying to find the time to take care of themselves. I love the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. So please, even if it's a minute a day, 2 minutes a day, where you can fill your cup through breathing, meditating, movement, it will make you feel better. And you will then, of course, be able to serve your loved one that much better.
You're absolutely right. I know,
Absolutely.
Martha, that's one of the things that you always preach is make it with purpose. Do something with purpose and be present in that moment. What do you say, Martha? If you're going to enjoy the cup of coffee, enjoy the cup of coffee, smell it, taste it, be relaxed.
And I think to go along with that, as caregivers, we're so busy, and sometimes we don't stop to give ourselves those treats that we so well deserve. And so, if you are saying, "Hey, I'm going to have that ice cream," have it and enjoy it. Don't feel guilty about it. You deserve it. If you're going to say, "I'm going to go for a walk right now," don't be thinking about all the things that you have to do, but do it mindfully. Do it as you're thinking about the birds and the weather and the beautiful sky and the trees. And that's mindfulness. We just get, I think, scared of that term because you have to do it a certain way. You have to sit on a pillow, and you don't have to do it that way.
Those, Marta, are perfect examples of moving meditations or types of
Mhm.
meditation. Enjoying that ice cream cone. What is the flavor? What is the temperature? That can be a meditation. Going for a walk, listening, as you just said, to those bird sounds, feeling your feet on the ground. That's a meditation. Why? Because you're getting out of your head with all that to-do list and you're focusing on the ice cream or the walk or the bird songs. Beautiful way to be in the present moment and take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jennie, for being here and talking to caregivers about all of these wonderful tips and suggestions that they can incorporate into their day. We really appreciate it.
It's just been wonderful to have both of you here and talk about, yoga, meditation, self-care is really what we're talking about, and how it can not only be meaningful for the individual who you care for and help with maybe even behaviors and keeping them active, but it's also an incredibly important component of being a caregiver is to take that time, not feel guilty about it, and take that time to take care of yourself. Well, that's all the time we have left for this edition of Let's Talk Caregiving. To hear more of our podcasts, follow us on your favorite podcasting platforms or visit our website at scrc.care. I want to thank Martha for co-hosting another important discussion, our guest, Jennie McGoy, and our audience for tuning in. If you're providing support to a loved one, you don't have to do this alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. To connect to our programs and services, visit our website at scrc.care or call us at 1-800-827-1008. If you live outside of San Diego and Imperial counties, visit caregivercalifornia.org and find the Caregiver Resource Center closest to you. To support our efforts and make a tax-deductible donation, please go to scrc.care and click on the Donate tab. And remember, SCRC is here for you,
Caring for those who care for others.